G'day, punters. Welcome to the Rapid Fire preview show. This is the first serious attempt after last week's pilot. Jason has a party and John Walter from racingwatch.com.au. How you going, boys?
PD, well, thank you.
Excellent.
I'm good. I'm always well. Every time I see one of your shirts, mate, it picks me up.
That's good. That's good stuff, John. Okay, so this week, punters, we're going to start off by previewing the Millie Fox, the Silver Slipper at Rosehill. Then we'll slip over to Jason's insights for the Lightning in Melbourne, and then come back for the Hobartville to round things off. Of course, our show is brought to you by Top Sport. We'll obviously be talking about some of their fixed odds and so forth for some of these races. So we might start with then race 4. Rosehill, John, the track goes back to rail true after the rail was out 6 metres at the last.
Looks like
meeting.
He's in jail now. Look at this. He's bloody trying to confuse me. He's gone from Casper the Ghost to he's in jail. Yeah. Sorry, Paul.
That's a bright.
Yeah. So it goes back.
Is that your study mode? Is it?
There we go. Yeah, have a look at that.
Look at that. Liberace.
Liberace indeed. Okay, so we're going back to rail true from 6 metres. I imagine, John, it's still going to be an advantage to be on the fence in the run, especially in those shoot races at least.
Look like we'll get something similar, a 4 or 5, something like that to start with.
Yeah, look, last meeting was on the 8th of January. The track was officially a slow. It went from a 7 up to a 6. We had it marked around about that sort of dead slow range, around about the 5.5, and the inside lanes in the straight weren't the place to be. But prior to that, the 3 meetings prior, the inside was decent enough, and if not an advantage. So let's go with that for now. The map in race 4, John. Look, I've got, or at least I thought Expat could comfortably lead here, Bellucci Bay, if it wanted to. The thing I liked about it was the blinkers going back on, freshened up, had the trial since, the trial without the blinkers, so and showed enough speed there, and thought it trialled pretty stylishly too. So for me, I've got it number 1 pick. What about yourself?
I think intent-wise, I think Mark Newnham's smart enough to work out this is probably as high a level as he probably wants to shoot for with this horse, and it may be, a rung high if it was deep into the carnival and it was a target race for everyone, but he looks like he's really found a nice race to get this horse ready for. It's drawn ideally, as you said, blinkers on. Everything says that it's going to Shanghai to the front. Those around him aren't really dangerous, and the fresh horses that have probably got a bit more class and look dangerous are going to be buried back and inside and need luck. So, as it's turned out, it looks like he's, whether it was good planning plus a bit of luck, it really looks a suitable race for Expat in a number of ways.
Well, the ones occupying a better percentage at the moment are Rocket Clock and Crone, like you mentioned, who are likely to be back in the field. Look, I mean, Rocket Clock is definitely got plenty of ability and it seems to have trialled up quite nice, but it's just not really a first-up horse for mine. And yes, whilst it could pinch the inside run and be dangerous late, currently Top Sport odds, John, what are they? I think it's around about the $5-6 mark.
Share. So, yeah, currently 360 favourite Expat, 460 Crone in from $6, 5 out to 6 Rocket Clock, which is interesting. The horses from that stable have been really well supported early and right through lately. 460 to 440 Bellucci Babe, $9 the Lude, $11 Bring the Ransom, 13 Matchmaker, 21 the bottom one. So,
well, to me, Crone was probably a bit of a weakness in the market too, off the 35 days, and he's got some hope in the race. But even a horse like Lay Lude, who tracks potentially Bellucci Babe or Expat in the run, could feature okay. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they're more dangerous, as you say. Like the dangerous way to race it at Rosehill is to ride that rail, get off in the straight, which is obviously the ideal way to play it. And they're the horses that seem to find that, rather than having to come sort of wide and circle, which is more difficult to do. So I would agree. I'd say Rocket Clock's the dangerous horse. I don't know whether it'll cross Lalude. That's unlikely. So it'll probably be 3 back to fence at best, and then it's got to get that run, get to the middle and chase down a horse that should make it a fair test. So it should make it difficult to sustain a run to run it down. So it's it's not a vintage race by any measure, I don't think, but it just looks a really suitable race for expat more than anything.
And Bleachy Babe, I mean, there's probably a bit of weakness there, isn't there, John, in terms of the distance? I mean, it's a 1,100 metre horse for mine. It has run well over 1,300, actually behind expat here at Rosehill, but that was a slow track, and that was a bit of a standout performance. Other than that, its 1,200 metre form even is probably a few lengths below what it can do over that 1,000, 1,100 metres.
It's had excuses, and that's probably why it's so hard in the market, and it does look like it'll probably get that little stalking run behind the expat, but I agree, dynamic ridden back over 1,000 to 1,100. It's got a short sprint, and over 1,300, especially if the leader makes it a bit of a grinding go, you'd see it'd be one of those that'll loom up and then probably struggle to get past expat, and something from behind it will be more dangerous late.
Well, your clients, John, will obviously get your thoughts tomorrow and a market on this race, I'm assuming. For me, I've got to be with expat as the clear horse to beat here.
Anything to add, Jason? It's a pretty exciting race, mate. Joking.
I'm on mute. No, I just wanted to get your thoughts on Matchmaker here off its 2 trials. What did you think of it?
It's a dangerous horse. I just think that his horses do improve through their prep, and I just don't see how it can possibly be anywhere but sort of in the last 3 or 4 and coming wide, and just don't really see it. Probably $13 is about right. I think it can win, but it'll need things to fall its way, whereas others will probably in a little bit more control of their destiny. It just looks a really tactical race rather than a clinical form race, which is kind of why I dismissed it, I guess.
Has Belushi backed up before?
I think it has. Belushi Babe is a 7-day backup before.
No, it hasn't. First time.
Yeah, okay. So that's the interesting thing now, man. It just looks a super weak Group 2, doesn't it?
Well, it looks like he's thrown it in, Bjorn, which he loves doing. So that makes sense that he's seen the noms, had a shot at the title.
Yeah.
Look, his horses on the quick backup aren't doing anything special from a betting point of view, so there's no real edge there for me. Just on Matchmaker, the trial there, that the Wild Ruler trial, the official time, or the actual verified time to the official, was significantly slower, so that official time is grossly wrong. Look, on old form, you'd have to say as a 3-year-old, it could potentially feature in this race, and it's interesting that Keren's got the ride. I did take a second look at it, but I've sort of pushed it out the gate and taken the risk with it, so I couldn't back it first up. Expat 1 out. Okay, let's move on to a race 6, which is the 2-year-old race, of course, the Silver Slipper. Interesting race here in terms of speed, John. We've got Queen of the Ball, who you would.
Should we talk about the market first? We'll get you used to talking.
We might talk about the market. Yeah, we might talk about the market first.
It looks like 280, pretty firm. Queen of the Ball is the. Hang on, I'll get this. 280 favourite, Queen of the Ball. Well back down the bottom side. Thera, I think they bet better than double figures into 750. OJ, is it? OJ? $12, $13 into 750, been well backed as well from the Godolphin yard. Best of Bordeaux a little bit easy, sort of $5 out to 750, and Charlatan very similar, 5.7 into 650. So dominant favourite, Queen of the Ball in the early market. Ebhas is a little bit of a nibble there, 11 into 10.
Yeah, okay. So here it looks like the speed for me is number 13, Queen of the Ball. Look, this horse, number 3, does have some speed. It'll be interesting to see what they do with it, whether they try and ride it forward here from the Waterhouse stable. If so, it could be annoying up front. Look, Spacewalk's an interesting runner because you'd think from the gate they'd have to go back, but I could see a situation where it could posse in the first half a dozen for sure, and possibly face a wide trip. Best All Bordeaux is probably going to be in the running line. Scythia is probably going to be tracking Queen of the Ball potentially on the fence there, so it'll get a nice run as well and get its chance. But look, on recent form and figures, John, for me, Queen of the Ball is the only one I could possibly want to back. In saying that, though, it did come off that track where it was advantaged, so that worries me a little bit. But you could say the same for Best of Bordeaux as well.
And the best part is, or the horses behind Best of Bordeaux, one of them spelled, the other one's failed. of Mars, or was it Annabelle's, and the second horse that Queen of the Ball smashed come out and won quite well at Caulfield on Saturday. So at least there's some sort of back up to her form and a bit of a weakness in Best of Bordeaux, who both had similar situations where things went to plan last start.
Of course, Mumbai Jewel came out of that race too and won last week after being taken back in the first race, but the time wasn't anything flash. But look, for me, that's the clear top pick. I can see a case where you could warrant it slightly shorter than the current market price. I think that Charlton is a horse that's in the market that I would be wanting to take a set against on price only at this stage. What price you mentioned it, John, Charlotte?
I think it was 5 out to 750, something like that.
Yeah. I think it probably should get longer. And Ebhar and Cythera are the other two in the market with some sort of chance. But for me,
you've got Rachel's a really aggressive rider from that one, and like sometimes they can be vulnerable from one holding the front because the riders are a little bit passive and don't want to work. But I feel like she'll come out and give it a good dig and take advantage of the gate and probably take it away from horses like Athletica and Best of Bordeaux Spacewalk. And if she does, and Cythera just goes straight onto its back, it might be a bit like an Albion Park trot race where leader behind leader could be very dominant, and the others, they may have ability, but those two may just run the race really. 1100 around here can be very difficult to catch those fast horses.
Indeed. Okay, so we've got a bit of consensus there. Jason, did you have any opinion on this race at all?
Nothing from me.
Okay.
No, nothing from you. But the horse that's probably going to be back on the fence, there's not hopelessly the Boyfriend. I thought it went okay its first start, and if it just gets that suck up run, it does look to me like a bit of a trot race where the fence is going to be really handy, and they're going to go quick, and it'll be hard to be sort of coming from back and wide and sustaining a run. So Boyfriend was my roughie there. We're off to Melbourne.
I better not say anything about Boyfriend there. I marked it considerably longer, John, but you'll probably.
That's all right. That's all right. I don't mind.
Okay, so we'll head off down to Melbourne for the Lightning.
Get your market.
What market have we got here?
All right. Small field, so it fits on my screen. That's good. Nature Strip, $2.60, pretty firm. $3.80 out from $3.40. Eduardo. Home Affairs pretty solid. $6.50 back into $6. Profiteer, 11 into $9.50. Can't explain that one. $8.50 out to $9.50. Masked Crusader, that looked the interesting horse to me. Geetrat, 16 into 12 is interesting. And 20's the rest. Inferno, the Astrologist, and Swats that.
Yeah, well, this is a sensational Group 1 race assembled here for this sprint. I think the great thing about this race is often straight races can be, trot and canter, sprint in the last 4, but this race historically is a true sprint. I've gone back and watched the last 5 races of this race. Some common themes there is the leaders don't win. Often the best spots to be is tagging the leader, not necessarily with cover. Back markers can run well. Brett Kirk Warrior is the only one that won, though, just beating Redzel when it was odds on. I think it was important to note as well, there's been a bit of commentary around that J-Max chosen Home Affairs over Nature Strip here. He's on a retainer with Coolmore.
100% on a retainer.
They pay him a salary, and if Home Affairs was 500 to 1 here and Nature Strip was $1.10, he would be riding Home Affairs because they are helping him pay for his house. He just bought him for Cluse. Good on him, I say. So he hasn't chosen.
Plus, he's got big bonuses if he does get it home as like a 3-year-old Group 1 is a huge bonus too. So
so he'd be on plenty on this. So he hasn't chosen Home Affairs over Nature Strip here. He's got an obligation contractually to do that. So my map here, I've got Profiteer leading from 7 at a decent clip. I'm sure they're thinking the only chance they have is to lead all the way with the weight relief that he gets as a 3-year-old.
Just a question on that, Jason. Sorry, just an interesting question on that. Profiteer, if you go and look at the recent jump outs or the trial on the jump outs, they've ridden it quieter, right? So you still think that they're going to go forward? Because my map does have the ability for Profiteer to put pressure into this race early, but at the same time, you wouldn't think that that's what they're going to do looking at the recent headouts.
Yeah, I saw that. I just can't see a way where this horse can sit back and run over them. I think that with the weight relief, they're going to go forward. So that's how I've mapped it.
When they show the confidence to accept in this race, they're obviously somewhat delusional anyway. So maybe they do. I do remember once upon a time a horse called God's Own in the Cox Plate, and they came out and said they were going to outsprint Mackay Diva. So you never know when it comes to connections. They do think their horses are capable of incredible things.
But God's Own won a Caulfield Guineas, and I can tell you now, Profiteer won't be winning a race like that. You can nearly ring the RSPCA for running it in this race. It's got absolutely no chance, which I put on Twitter last night. It's 11.
So Jason, what price you marked it?
101. I've got it marked. So my market here is Nature Strip and Eduardo $4, Mars Crusader $6.50, Home Affairs $7, G-Tra 11, the Inferno 21, Swatsat 23, and the Astrologist and Profiteer fighting out last spot at $101.
Well, I thought you might embarrass yourself, but I'm obviously going to be the one to do it. I'd put 500 to 1 against Profiteer.
Yeah. Okay. So
I was only 50s. I'm light on. I'm weak.
I think it's got absolutely.
I found the same roughie as you. I think I found the same value runner anyway.
Absolutely none. So interestingly, so got Profiteer in 7. I think it's great. We've got Eduardo and Nature Strip drawn next to each other in 6 and 5. Going to be a hugely tactical battle. I don't see anyone jostling for cover in a 9-horse field. I think they'll just run up the straight. I expect them to both stalk the speed. I think Nash will just sit off Jamie a little bit, just sit at its hind, and then look to really put the pressure on at the 400 and try and out-tough him. I see J-Mac a bit closer to the grandstand on Home Affairs on the other side of Profiteer, also sitting on the speed like he did in the Coolmore. He just rode the speed where they went 5.5 lengths above for the first 600, and he was able to run away and win the race quite easily. So who can't win? As I said, Profiteer. It won a set weights penalty 3-year-old race this track and distance in the spring, beating Direct, who lost a Class 1 the other day at $1.20. I can't see it winning. Astrologist isn't a Group 1 weight for H horse. They'll use this as a lead up to the new market with a low weight. So what's that? Look, she's a good horse. She jumped out really well. She ran 3rd in this last year and 2nd in the Darley. Couldn't see her winning. Not the worst place bet. And I'm going to take on G-Tra. I'm just not sure he's the same horse that he was. Acknowledging that he can be really good first up and got a great record here. So I guess in summary, I'm pretty keen to take on Nature Strip here at the price. Look, I acknowledge what Waller's done with him over the last 12 months is extraordinary. He's won every race bar 2. Both of those times he was beaten by Eduardo. I think, look, if anyone wants to back him, he can win, but I think he deserves better than $2.60. As I said, I've marked him $4. Really interesting here, Mars Crusaders. It's his first start down the straight. I don't think he's going to be that far off them. And look, unless he completely bombs the start, which you never know with him, but he just could be one of these horses that straight line racing really suits. And with the pace, if they go really hard in front, he could just run home and fly over them. As I said, I've rated him $6, but I'm just taking him on, just assuming the 5 furlongs is just a tad too short. I'm just even surprised they brought him down here for this, and I think it's a signal of intent that they have, that they're bringing him down, and they must have him wound up here. So for me, I'm having 2 primary bets in the race. The first is based on how I see the race setting up, and as I said, I think Eduardo is my bet. I can see him sitting on Nature Strip and really putting the pressure on with him. His fresh record since moving to Joe Pride is just absolutely outstanding. He's had the wood over Nature Strip fresh in particular. So I'm going to go with him at the price. I never thought I'd be tipping an 8-year-old in a 1,000-metre sprint first up, but Nature Strip 7, and they're just.
He's had 2 lives though. He's had 2 lives, Eduardo. He's only really 3 or something in the Joe Pride camp.
Yeah, exactly. And look, they're just extraordinary horses. And look, I'm also really keen to back Home Affairs. I acknowledge weight for age is probably not ideal, but 3-year-olds do have a really good record in this race, albeit without winning. September Run ran 2nd last year, and before that, Loving Gabby ran well. I do have a bit of a query on the depth of the Coolmore form last year. But look, and I know the Everest he was poor, but look, he just raced completely fierce that day. After the Everest, they put the nose roll and tongue tie on him, and then he went up the straight and just absolutely brained them. As I said, I'm not sure about the form of that Coolmore, but you can only smack them. Straight racing, you want to be a straight racing horse, which he's proven he is. And Wallow's going to have him really wound up here. Like, this is a stallion-making potential race. Look, second up, if he wins this, he's odds on in the Newmarket. So maybe the bet is, if you think he can run top 3 here, he's going to drop in weight and probably win the Newmarket. So people may want to have a bet there. He's only about $4.50. He's well found. But I'm going to back Eduardo and Home Affairs, and hope I can get the result there, acknowledging that it's just a super field. The one roughly,
Crusader's not poking through with 200 to go, and you have a heart attack.
Who's that? Sorry.
If Masked Crusader's poking his head through with 200 to go, you'll be having a heart attack. Yeah.
If he's poking his head through at 200 to go, he'll be winning. The one roughie I could entertain here is the Inferno. I will chop out on him. Look, this is a very, very, very good horse. Come over from Singapore. His record speaks for itself. He's won 9 from 12, 8 from 11 on good tracks. Just pipped in a Group 1 in the spring by Wild Ruler. Wild Ruler, you could say, potentially could measure up this spring to this autumn to these horses. He keeps improving. But I just think second prep in Australia, this horse, if he keeps improving on the upward spiral, I think he's a dynamic 1,000-metre horse, and he could be the one that plows them, as could Masked Crusader. Look, it's a great race. I haven't got huge conviction in terms of declaring things.
Like last week, I agree with you.
It's just an amazing race. Let's hope PVL doesn't put a race on to stuff this up next year, because all the horses have come down for it. That would be annoy me even more than he already does, if that's possible. But yeah, look, I think a great race. Great that we get this at Flemington down the straight, and hopefully we'll get a result with those two.
I'm not a big fan of straight races in general, but this is a great one, because like that lineup of fast horses that can sustain their speed, and then you get the mix of a horse like Chautauqua or the Masked Crusader in this case, that can, you don't know how close they're going to be, whether naturally and what they're going to do. It is a very different race to anything Sydney has to offer, that's for sure.
Did you have an opinion, John, in terms of selection?
I thought Masked Crusader at 950, if I was going to be, I could find too many angles for the others and not value. Whereas I think, of all the horses that at the end of the day you could reprice by what could happen, you could easily say that Masked Crusader could be a 2-to-1 chance or something, looking back on it and going, wow, he was only 2 or 3 off him. And it's the only horse I could have something on to watch the race and entertain. From a betting perspective with confidence, I think it's a very difficult one, because there's not a grand final for all of them, and the ones that will be trying the hardest may not have the best ability. So I think Masked Crusader for me, but no confidence.
Look, in terms of consistency of numbers, I've got to go with Nature Strip, but I see all the arguments that you've made, Jason, and almost nothing would surprise here except for Profiteer. Let's hope we don't end up with egg on our face.
I hope it wins deep down.
I put on Twitter last night that I was putting a generous lay bet to place there. I'm gonna wind that out, that price later today. So if anyone's keen on Profiteer, please match me on the fair. I'd love to take your money. It's got no chance.
Indeed. Well, if it wins, Jason, then you and I find a nearest balcony.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, exactly. You can find someone else for next week, because I'll have credibility.
Okay, so is that it? So let's move back to Sydney for the Hobartville, which is the last race we'll cover.
I want to talk about. I'll whack up the odds while I'm reading these ones out. So you're.
Please do. So race 8, Rosehill.
There's your Top Sport.
Oh, okay. It's because Top Sport. If you're wanting to have a bet, there's some Group 2s on there tomorrow. So that means that you are to win 5,000 from the Open and 10,000 late. Group 1 in Melbourne, minimum 10 to 25. I'm not sure if Tristan's labelled that a feature Group 1. If he has, then it's 20 to 50,000. So best of best products obviously also available for good amounts. The thing is that importantly it is from the Open, so punters can get on and get a fair bet. Okay, so we've
got Animo $1.75, pretty firm. $6 Converge. The market mover so far has been Silent Impact. They bet a lot better than $11 most places, into $6.50. Ranch Hand, fairly solid around the 9,950 mark. Halal, $12, same sort of argument there, about the same. And then sort of 50s the rail, $31. Maurice's me dad off a good resumption and should get a good run tomorrow. And 50s the rest.
So the market's saying early doors that Silent Impact's going to cross and lead this field. Look, I thought Morris's my dad could also be a little bit potent up to the 1400. But if obviously Silent Impact wants to lead, it will. And then it's sort of up for grabs because you've got a whole cluster of horses towards the back. On face value, you'd think that Converge would go forward, but there's probably a case, maybe, John, that they might try and ride it a bit quieter.
Well, I just think that when you've got the stablemate drawn wide, if he was drawn in, I think he'd try and hold a position. But when he's a chance there, like you say, there's probably 6 or 7 under him that don't want to particularly race in the first couple, but would love to hold that position, sort of 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. There's a chance he could be caught wide. And we saw First Up ridden forward. He's just not the same horse. I know they walked there, but I think this will be used as a more of a not a barrier trial. It's a bad way to say it, but a trial for the Randwick Guineas where he can produce. He's a big chance of getting the back of a horse like Animo if he's ridden back a little bit, and I think they'd love to test out and see whether he can give him a run for his money. And then they've obviously got the backup of the stablemate up on pace to fly the flag from up there. So to me, it makes sense either way. But if it was mine, I'd probably ride him, a bit quiet tomorrow and see if that really is what he needs to find his best.
Look, Animo, there's no doubt it raced about 2 lengths below what I had its First Up figure last prep. But the run was so good, and this horse has got enough upside and enough class. I think this race is very shallow in terms of chances, and that's what obviously the market's suggesting too. But look, I can see a case for it to be a lot shorter than $1.75. There is also potentially some resistance against this horse because it does look like it's potentially a sticky map depending on what Bowman does early. Hopefully he'll go forward and try and at least get it in the first 5 or 6. And if that's the case, then I think it'll just be winning. And for me, I couldn't possibly back any other runner in the race.
Yeah, if you had if they still had $16 up and you probably swap the riders, Tim and Regan Bayliss around, I could entertain Silent Impact simply because I think 1,400 metres it can go flat out from start to finish from that outside draw and really set all those around it a task to run it down, especially it's a hard fit Waterhouse horse, 3rd up, ready to go. Animo, as you said, a few question marks, but now it's into sort of $7. I think that's probably more realistic, and I do agree with you that it's I'm not a big even money man, especially for a horse that's you've got questions about where it's going to be, but basically it would have to do its worst, and the rest of them would have to come up to on an even track to race to it. So how can you have it anything but short? And if Converge runs over the top of it, it's definitely gone to another level.
Yeah, well, I mean, Converge's best figure, which I've got into JJ Atkins when it won up there at Eagle Farm, that figure is sort of roughly equivalent to what Animo produced First Up last prep. And of course, it went on to race better than that in terms of its ratings in the Caulfield Guineas and Cox Plate. So, look, I just see it as the logical horse. I mean, we can all find arguments against it. The map is the only potential sticky equation for mine. However, if it drew a much better gate and this race was a different configuration, I could see an argument that you could have it around 2 to 5.
Yeah,
2 to 5
right.
3's on. So what I'm saying is that around that 4 to 5 to even money range, I think it's a decent bet, and I think it's worth the risk, and I'll be backing it.
Yeah, from a map perspective, just going through, I think, Silent Impact, Morris is me dad dominate. So, people who play exotics and things like that, those are 2 horses that should really run well. They've both got nice setups. Converge is the one. I don't know what it'll do, to be fair. I think it's the one that's quite difficult to assess here. I'm against Ranch Hand getting quickly to 1,400, especially considering I think that Silent Impact will make it a decent test. I don't think it'll be a sit sprint. And, Animo finds itself. I think they're the main ones. And Halal will be poking up the fence there at some point and probably run very close to the placings.
Yeah, it could easily be competitive, Halal, especially with your mate Willie Pike on board there, John. You giving him a good rap?
Did you see him poke his head up inside that thing around the bend at Wyong? Oh, wasn't it great to watch? And old mate just put the right-hand blinker on and said, here, meet the rail.
Back for Perth.
That was good.
I'm sure he'll measure up. So that's pretty much it. Punters, hopefully you got something out of that. I know, and unfortunately, I suppose there's a couple of races there where the favourites seem well found, but they do.
We might have to rename the show if it's rapid fire and it goes for 30 minutes and 33 seconds. We might have to go medium fire or something. It might be, but we'll work on that over time. I'm sure.
Well, we've covered 4 races. We've done pretty well, and hopefully we can have something to talk about on Monday. So don't forget to come back and see us on Monday when we do the review of Saturday's races and do the questions. You can get your questions into John or myself on Twitter through direct message or email if you've got our email addresses. Thanks again to Jason for your participation and analysis. Jason, of course, you got the winner there last week with Tafani there. I think it was about $8 or something, so that was a good result. And we managed to get the favourite beat in Sydney, so happy days. John, thanks very much for your help. Of course, if you want John stuff, racingwatch.com.au, and we'll see you on Monday.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks, guys.